we start with the simple redirect. So in this case, again, having a simple redirection URL in that QR code that points to whatever that destination might be, having the redirect there gives you the flexibility to change that. So when you're looking at that QR code, if you've ever seen where you got a QR code and you scan it and it goes to a page that's not found, a lot of times that's a fixed URL that's in that QR code, where if they'd been doing a redirection service, they would be able to go in and update that and redirect it to a different destination. Sometimes it changes, sometimes it expires, sometimes when the campaign is over, et cetera. When you're using redirection, it allows you to update that at any point in time, even doing it dynamically, where you can have a different destination based on the language of their browser, based on the location of their device, based on the time of day or the day of week. So again, you can change that dynamically based on that outcome. So the point of sale still gets its G10 for scanning. It still can behave that way in an offline manner, but when the consumer scans it, they can have that personalized experience through that redirection service. And where do we point them? In this case, the second piece of this is the landing page. This could be existing page on your website. It could be your website itself, it could be product information. But the reality is you've got flexibility here. Every product has something that you would route them to. So it's a matter of connection, that redirection with that landing page. So they've got something of meaningful that, again, that can evolve over time because it is a web page at that point. Again, the point of sale, they have their experience for the checkout process, but this is the consumer scanning that QR code, just like they might do today. They're scanning a traditional web browsing QR code. In this case, the experience is the same for the consumer. They still land on the website, but you're able to control the information that they have and feed them what they need in that journey for that consumer. Now, as that evolves, the next piece gets into how do we improve the information over time? How can we look at our product database and dynamically change this based on that experience? And so now we get into the ability of creating dynamic web pages based on the information that we have available. So when I scan that particular G10, I may build that page in real time based on the ingredient information, the allergy information, where it was sourced from, what batch it was from, where was it manufactured, what is the information that really tells the story of that product, what the recycling information is. And again, as things do change and evolve, as restrictions and regulations evolve over time, you can always go back in and update this. So again, think about products that may have a package, let's say it's a plastic package that at some point there's new recycling components around that. You can always update that information in real time and feed that data to the landing page so that when it gets scanned, the consumer, again, has the best information right then and there based on what's happening at that exact moment. So it's critical in looking at the ecosystem, how does this evolve? And knowing that when you have access to all this data in real time, you can assemble that experience in real time as well.